Hello friends, thank you so much for clicking on this video. I really hope that you will consider subscribing to my channel if you're enjoying the instruction that I'm giving you. So today we're going to be talking about the skills learned in Minuet 2. This is a big one. There's a lot of skills being learned. So the first skill, this is the first time where we have a string crossing that skips a string. So I'm talking about in measure 2. I have a G on the E string, then I have to skip A string and go over to D string. So when we're crossing from a higher string to a low string, remember, what leads the motion? The wrist. So if you're a little bit confused on what I'm talking about, definitely go watch my string crossing video. Even though we're leading with the wrist, it's important that elbow also follows, and we don't kind of end up like that. So something good to practice might be stop, cross. See, my elbow went up quite a bit actually when I was going to that D string. The first measure is also really tricky for string crossings. So when we're going from the lower string to the higher string, remember the elbow leads the motion. So if I start here on the D string, lower, lower, stay in this position because we're just going back to A string for one note. And in that first measure, while we are crossing strings, our fingers should stay down. So watch. Fingers should stay down as much as possible. We want the movement to be as efficient as possible. So that's the first teaching point. Definitely don't underestimate these string crossings. They are the biggest string crossings that we've ever had. But remember, back in A2, we did have a little preview of this Minuet 2 beginning. So you have done it before, the student has done it before, it's just, it happens a lot more often in this piece. So the second skill, this is the first time that we've ever had a slur. And on top of that, we have slurred triplets that are changing notes. So it's really common for these triplets to be rushed, kind of like. So I like to say the triplet is a lazy rhythm. We don't want to go too fast. So we want to make sure the triplet is nice and even, that we have a really nice slur, and that our notes are in tune, especially with this one. A good way to practice these slurs and any slurs is to stop your bow. This helps us work on bow division. Kind of going along the slur theme, the third skill being learned is a down bow slur from a higher string to a lower string. So I'm talking about from measure 29. And in measure 30, we have. So 2 slurs. Again, it's important not to stop the bow. You can practice it like that for practice. But when we're actually playing the piece, it needs to be nice and smooth. Another added layer of difficulty for these 2 measures is that it's piano. So we want to be using just a little bit of bow. So the fourth skill, we have a new finger pattern. Now this is probably the hardest spot in the whole piece, and you probably already know what I'm talking about. From measure 23 to 24, we have this finger pattern with the high 3. So we have whole step between 1 and 2, whole step between 2 and 3, and then a half step between 3 and 4. So we play the triplet. We want to make sure, especially here, that it's in tune. 1 and 2 are very close, and that 3 is high enough. Go to 1. Now at this point, the student probably still has tape, so all you have to do is place 3 in between your 3rd and 4th finger tapes. Place 4 right next to it, and leave 3 down here because we're coming right back to it. Back to 3, open, 1. This is a really good preview spot because, like I said, it's probably the trickiest part in the whole piece. Really making sure that 3 is high enough, 3 and 4 are right next to each other, 4 is in tune, and that we're not lifting the 3 after we place the 4 because, again, we're coming right back to it. The 5th skill is this is the first time that we've had a perfect 5th hop in our 2nd finger. Now, this is not the first time we've seen that. We've had it with our 3rd finger back in Song of the Wind, and then we've had it with our 1st finger back in Long, Long Ago. But this is the first time that we have it with our 2nd finger, and I'm talking about from measures 6 to 7. here. So that's just something to be aware of. Going along those lines, we do have a lot of imperfect fifths where we have to play a low 2, say on the A string, and then a high 2, say on the D string, because we're in G major. So that's just something to watch out for, making sure those 2s are in tune. We have been working on this, especially back in Minuet 1, so shouldn't be too terribly difficult. And finally, kind of going back to the slurs. So not only are we teaching the student how to play the slurs, but we should also be teaching them to recognize the slurs in music. So you can play a really fun game where you have the student turn around or close their eyes, and then you can play something like not slurred, and then play something slurred, and then have them tell you, if it was slurred or not slurred. You can also just listen to pieces here in maybe book 2 and see if you can recognize the slurs. We're not just training students how to play, but also how to hear. So ultimately, they can play what they hear. So those are the 6 skills learned in Minuet 2. Like I said, it is a big piece. So your child or you should feel very accomplished when you get all of these teaching points down. As always, feel free to leave a comment with any questions, and thank you so much for watching.